So now the sun's finally out again, it's time to pick up where we left off last week, which, if you can remember, was doing a little bit of dent removal, I suppose you'd call it here, trying to sort of pop out some of the worst bits of shrinkage. And so what I'm going to be doing this week is actually grinding back some of these welds here, redoing the bits that need redoing, and tightening up this half. So we're going to work on this half of the roof, get rid of some of these tacks and actually weld those in fully. Probably, well, maybe slice through their relief, cut it a bit, hammer it out, because it's still a little bit messy for my liking. And we'll try and get this end finished, and then we'll have a little look at the engine as well. Now, the last time I tried to film myself doing anything, I did an appallingly bad job, and all I ended up doing was filming the edge of my gas bottle. So to try and avoid doing that, I probably won't film myself doing this bit, but we can check back and see after the grinding and the welding what this half actually looks like. Yeah, you can see there's a few ripples in there. Somebody in the comments said maybe about 3-4 mil of filler. You know what, I'll probably make him right there, but only in a couple of places, certainly there. And as he said, they don't have the nickname Lead Sled for nothing. Probably worth pointing out before I start, the weapon of choice for this is just a normal angle grinder with a Rolock adapter, and then these are Norton Blaze 36 grit, I think, and they make really quick work of going through some of the welds, and they're a lot easier to control than the massive flap discs that I often use as well. So yeah, if you don't have these, grab some of them. So just ground back the old welds on there where those beads had been sitting for about a year, 2 years probably actually. So not only have we got hard welds, they're also rusty. Found a few holes, pinholes to go back over, which is absolutely cool. That was kind of what I was expecting to find anyway. And then likewise we'll re-weld, well, we'll actually finish weld rather than just tacking along here. So I've ground down those tacks. If nothing else, doing that has just made me realise that over the last couple of years my panel gap setting ability has got better alongside my welding, but that's not unusual because I've had an extra 2 years of practice on other things. So at least going back to this now means it's going to be done better than if I'd finished it when I'd initially started it. So that's good. This swage line is a little wobbly here. It's going to need quite a little bit of metal work before it gets to the body working stage. But considering it was done without a bead roller or without a shrinker stretcher, and it was all just done by hammering on a bit of wood, I don't think it's actually too bad. So let's crack the Oxford out and start welding this thing up. Okay, so I've now gone back and re-welded any pinholes that were along here. Had the wire speed a little fast on the bottom, so I've got a little bit of build up that I didn't really want. But again, little pinholes here. Again, just redid part of that seam, and then have gone along and welded the bottom up fully and the top up fully. We've got a little bit of sinkage as expected, but it's not too bad. I've given it a bit of a dressing back. So really just need to go round and clean up those welds with the flap disc or the little Rolock disc, and then do any final knocking out of bits that needed, and then that side should be okay. And actually, as we're doing sort of one side at a time and using this as the practice side, we can have a little look at getting out this seam and removing this seam, because this is a I'm not quite sure what it is. It's something that kind of like a little T-piece that sits down in the seam between the quarter and the boot lid, and really what I want to do is get rid of it. And then I don't know whether I'll put a peak in there or whether I'll just smooth it over, but I suspect it will be horrible and contaminated in there, but we'll see. People have suggested splitting it out with a chisel, so we'll try that. We'll do it a bit at a time, probably lay a bit of welding rod in there and weld over from side to side and just have a little look at how that starts coming out. But this side is now beginning to come together, so after we've done the neatening up there, the job is this horrible bit here, this horrible bit there, and then actually rebuilding quite a lot of this B pillar where I've got some nice, I'm not sure if I think it's 1.5mm steel that I'm going to use to completely redo that, to put some structure back in it. So let's check back in once I've given that a bit of a grind off, and we can have a little look at what is behind this seam cover. So just a quick blow over with some satin black, just to protect it from the elements. The bottom edge of that is, I haven't finished grinding that back, and there is a bit of a step that goes down there. It wasn't quite aligned, which is going to annoy me, but it is going to be covered mostly by where the window rubber goes round, so a lot of that will be hidden with a little bit of filler and a little bit of window rubber, so we're good. I'm calling that side for now, certainly round the edge of that, because I like the lines. A little bit of dressing back, a little bit of hammer dolly work later on before I start doing the proper body work, and we'll be good. So let's just go get a chisel and let's start chipping away at this and see what we can do about this this seam here. So I've just started literally just running a chisel along the edge there, and I don't honestly know what I was expecting, because loads of people on the forums say there's all sorts of different stuff under here. There doesn't really seem to be anything at all. Now I don't know whether that's because I've just driven the top of it off and left a bit of the T-piece in, but this is certainly, that's certainly steel. So even if I've left a bit of it behind, it's not full of gunky stuff. So it was mostly rust, so now I've ground the rust off. Looks like I should be good to if necessary just stick a few tacks along there to make sure that this doesn't part company with that, although it should be pinch welded on the inside. There's no way that's holding it together. I'll see if I've got any small welding rods. Might lay that in the gap, that will just give a little bit more surface to grind back to if I decide to peak it, or if I decide to keep it running smooth. We'll see how it looks and then decide how I'm going to finish it. Okay, so I laid down some rod as a filler, but there was some quite gnarly like tar stuff, I think, somewhere in there, probably seam sealant. So every weld was dirty and horrible and wanted to catch fire. So as you can see, there's only a couple of tacks in there at the moment really, but it's holding it together. As I say, there's a pinch weld on the inside, which is here, and you can see there's many spot welds along there. So I could probably have done without actually welding anything along here, but I think what I'll do for the rest of it is I'll just chuck some tacks, you know, like an inch and then an inch and then an inch, or whatever like that, just because it doesn't seem to be making any difference the other way that I do it. But it's it looks nice without the seams. They're going to smooth off nice, and I think will fit in with the kind of look that we're going for here, which is that smoothed out 50s custom car style. Now the weather has started to turn, so rain stops play outside for the minute, so we'll leave the bodywork of the car and instead we'll come over here and we'll have a little look at the engine. Now, warning for those of you that are any good at editing, and I'm not, the footage that I filmed for the car I filmed now. The footage that I filmed for the engine that you'll see in a moment, I filmed a while back in the dark in the garage, so it doesn't look as good, and it probably, there's going to be a few continuity errors, but such is life. So since the last video, the core plug has arrived and been installed, and as you can see here, though the light's not great in the garage, I have fitted the 10-inch clutch pressure plate and the flywheel. So that is the back of the engine sorted as I wanted it to be. I've also given my car bell housing a little bit of a blow over. Fuel pump is on there, and now I have to take off the inlet manifold and actually fit the gaskets, or at least in a minute what we'll do is we'll see how torn up the gaskets that were in there before, or how, well, let's start that again. In a minute I will take this off and we will see how badly torn up the gaskets are in here from the last time I removed this and forgot to take some of the bolts out and gave it a wobble and tore it. Okay, so I couldn't lift that off with one hand, it's a little too heavy to lift off with one hand, so I just paused it whilst I took that off. Finding some bolts kicking about in here, that's always nice. Yeah, this the gasket on this side, it's got royally torn in a number of places. I mean, this bit here probably doesn't make any difference because it doesn't actually cover anything up there, but it is certainly torn around here. This side doesn't actually look too bad, so would probably be fine, but what I don't want is loads of gasket leaks, so I'll just feel vaguely okay. Certainly good enough to get a gasket on. Now these are small port gaskets. This has had a bit of a port job on it, so they may be a little on the small side for it, but again, we're talking about a little baby 239. We are not talking about a big horsepower 312 or anything like that. So I think the fact that there's maybe a tiny bit of gasket interference there is not going to be a problem. Probably much less of a problem than actually leaving the gaskets in the state that they were. And stick that in there, or I'll reinstall that at some point anyway. So I will chuck the manifold back on. If anybody happens to have, by the way, for sale, preferably in the UK, some of the proper mushroom shaped bits that clamp down these portions on the Y-block inlet, that'd be gratefully received, because at the minute I'm having to use massive penny washers to try and hold that down, because it's the one bit of this engine that I don't actually have. And in case you hadn't guessed by my voice, I am UK based, so therefore it's not quite as easy to get hold of all of the sorts of things that you guys can get over in the States. What I am hoping to do this weekend is to mount the gearbox to the bell housing, check it all lines up, give the engine a bit of a spin round, mount the oil breather road draft tube down there. I'm going to block it off actually, because what I don't want to do is lose actually any oil out there, so I'm going to block that fully off, and I'm going to cut that pipe there so it actually is just literally for decoration. And I think that will be absolutely fine. Can't find any other holes that need blocking. I did, however, find my ram's horn manifolds, so I'll work on patching those up and get them on as well, and that way we can cool the engine nicely buttoned up and I can start building some engine mounts for it. Now, if you've watched the video of fitting this Y block to a shoebox, you'll know about the modifications to the sump. I'm going to set it up so it will rest on the original flathead front engine mounts, which means going custom on the front end here. And I think that's going to be a case of dangling it over the engine bay and working out how it all fits, and then welding up some custom brackets for that. Oh, there we go. The inlet is all back on, and I have just confirmed with my mate that builds these a lot that does need a bolt in there. So I'm basically putting this on video so I remember to put one in there. The rest of it's pretty much all buttoned up, ready to go, because I have this horrible feeling if I don't get it all buttoned up now, I'm going to put it in the engine bay and I'm going to forget that there was something I needed to do to get it ready to run, and then like oil's going to come out of some hole somewhere, and that would be pretty annoying, or there'd be some sort of air leak. But at least I think all of the air leaks are fixed now. We've got a clutch. It's timed, it's all ready to fire up. So quick little update on the engine, more interesting things to do with the chop and the custom installation of this, and connecting up the throttle and all of the other engine mount building bits and things to follow. So now cutting back to today, hopefully this makes sense in the order I've filmed it versus the order I've edited it. Cutting back to today, and you can see what I have done is I've mocked up the installation of the alternator. This is an alternator off a Mini Cooper. I've got a nice rose jointed adjuster there for tensioning the belt, and all I need to do to this, which I'm going to do off camera, and so you won't see this video, but you will see it when it's in the car, is I'm going to make up, just bend up another 3mm steel bracket to join this to the hole that's tapped in the head there, just so we can brace the back of the alternator against that and hold it steady. This is actually just a standard dynamo bracket, and so yeah, once I brace that up there, so obviously it's not going to be flopping about like that, and we'll hold it nicely in position. So thanks for watching. Nice little catch up on this today, and I will be getting to the B pillars and I will be finishing the other side, but I'll probably finish the other side not bothering to film any of it, so I can just get on with it. But the next big project on this in terms of the bodywork is finishing off that B pillar and actually working out how I'm going to reconstruct where I chopped the absolute buggery out of it in order to lay it forwards, because to be honest it was the first time I'd done it and I probably didn't make quite such a neat job as maybe I would have done if I'd have been doing it now, which is 3 years after I started it. But yeah, thanks for watching. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, chuck me any comments. Take care, guys. Bye.